Hey, Walt from StogieReview.com here with another first impression cigar review of another sample that I received in the Studio Tobacco Advisory Board sampler. And this time around, I am smoking the Cain FF Torpedo. Yeah, wow, I'm about to try to show you a band that's not even there. But this is a 6x54 Torpedo, like I had mentioned, and I really don't know anything about it. Gathering from the name Cain FF, I would assume that we are going to take the Cain F and multiply it by 2 or something close to that. So just kind of, I have a hunch that it should be Cain F plus more F. So I would imagine, extra full-bodied cigar goodness. So we'll just go with that. First and foremost, just to kind of look it over, the cigar looks good. It's a nice consistent color from head to foot. There are a couple of medium-sized veins. It feels very, very firm. And one thing about Oliva that always concerns me is their shaped cigars. For whatever reason, it seems like, I don't know, 7 out of 10 that I smoke have a tendency to be a bit stiff. It almost seems as though, not enough material is taken out of the tapered head, and it's just sort of forced into place. And I always get these cigars that are really tight toward the head, and it's just reduced smoke volume. I wind up clipping them a bunch of times so I can get a decent draw, and again, like 7 out of 10, I'm not completely happy with it, and I always end up like lopping off more off the cigar, but we'll see how it goes. Looking at the foot, everything looks good. There's a lot of dark tobacco in there, but it looks nice and airy, not overly compacted. So what that should mean is, if you can even see that, is that it should draw well as long as this isn't packed too tight. So we'll see how it goes. Now I smoked the nub San Andreas Maduro this morning as a breakfast cigar, and this is my very next cigar, some 12 hours later, actually 13 hours later. Oh wow, draw is absolutely perfect. Just a tiny bit of resistance, but it flows very nice. So that is a weight off my shoulders. I was kind of concerned about that. So let's get this thing fired up. Not really getting anything on the cold draw. Maybe a little bit of like a peppercorn, but that's about it. So let's get this thing started. And just like the nub San Andreas Maduro, I've only got one sample, so I'm just gonna call it like I see it. If it's a dud for whatever reason, then it's just kind of is what it is, and we're gonna run with it. And if it's spectacular, well, that could be kind of a fluke too. You never really know, but not without having several. But there seems to be a fair amount of interest on these Studio Tobacco samplers, so I thought I'd run through it, good or bad, and see what happens. Already, the smoke coming off the foot of the cigar smells pretty pungent. It's just got kind of like a wood fire kind of smell to it. Wow, that's really strong through the sinuses. Really intense spice. But gotta kind of get myself used to that. We'll do a couple of retrohales and then we'll try again. That first puff sometimes can be a little bit more aggressive than as you get later in and you get sort of acclimated to it. That's better. Still got some burn, but really spicy, really aggressive. So far, it's off to a good start. I like these really potent cigars on occasion. So sit tight. I'll be back in just a second. We'll take a look at the first portion of my Cain Double F, and we'll go from there. Hey, I'm back and plugging right along on my Cain Double F, and I gotta tell you, I am really liking this cigar so far. I think I've had a smile on my face ever since I lit it, and it's burning beautifully. As you can see, it's got a nice compacted ash. The burn line is pretty straight. There's not much blistering going on. The ash is holding nice and steady. I'm not getting any flaking or flowering. It's not making any kind of mess. I'm probably not going to let it get much longer than this, just because I don't want to accidentally drop it on my lap. But as far as the burning characteristics are going, it's been superb. Tons and tons of smoke, very dense, easy to get through the sinus. There's just a slight bit of resistance on the draw. It doesn't have any like an airy quality. It's just nice, thick, copious amounts of smoke. I've sort of gotten acclimated to retrohaling. It's not as intense now, but it's still quite full. In terms of body, it's very full. It's got a nice creamy sensation on the palate. It's not super thick, but I'm kind of trying to think of something syrupy, but nothing is coming to mind. It's not like, molasses or syrup where it's overly thick, but it does leave a film sort of on the mouth, and as a result, that's why I'm calling it full-bodied. As far as the strength or intensity goes, this cigar is just up there. It is very intense. It hits you really hard, but impressively, even with all that strength, it's very smooth. It doesn't feel aggressive. It's not battering my palate. It's not, it's not really intense through the sinus where I'm sort of just regretting retrohaling or anything like that. It's doing really, really well. Now, in the flavor department, there isn't a whole lot going on. The flavors are definitely standing in the shadow of the power. It's got a little bit of a tart sort of flavor. It's got a little bit of a woody tone, kind of like a bit of almond. But it's really difficult to focus in on those flavors because they are standing behind all the power of all the Ligero that's jammed in here. And, some people are going to pick up the cigar and say, it's all power, it's no flavor, it's boring, it's one-dimensional. And it is all those things, except for boring. I really like this cigar, but I just like the core of the cigar, and I don't mind it being one-dimensional in that aspect. I've got a lot of cigar yet to smoke, so things may change. I really don't expect them to. I feel the same way about the Cain F line. They're pretty much straightforward. They don't have a lot of twists and turns, and I really wouldn't expect it from this cigar either. And it's definitely not showing signs of having twisty, turny flavor changes and wild profiles. It seems pretty straightforward, and I wouldn't expect it to vary much from that. But all in all, I'm really liking it. So sit tight. I'll be back. We'll take another look at it in a bit, and we'll see how it goes. Well, I'm back, and it's about time to wrap up this quick little first impressions review of the Cain Double F. I was going to come back earlier, but I decided to just kind of hold off and wait until I was about ready to wrap up the video to come back. Mainly because there really isn't much going on in terms of flavor changes and body variations and strength variations. It's all been very straightforward, and I really don't mind that. The core flavor is just something that I thought was pleasant and enjoyable. And while I do appreciate a lot of twists and turns in the flavor profile, I didn't mind this cigar not having it. It was just a good steady press straight on through. There wasn't much change in body either. I mean, it started off really bold and intense for the first couple of puffs, and then it kind of settled back into its groove, and that's where the cigar has stayed ever since. It's got a nice punch through the sinus. There's just a tremendous amount of power in the smoke itself, and just as I said before, it really shrouds the flavors. You know, there's some interesting ones there if you can pick them out. There's an interesting sort of tarty flavor. There's kind of an almond-like flavor. There's a wood flavor, and they're all interesting and dynamic, but they're just so muted because they're just pushed so far down because of all the power that they're hard to distinguish, or at least they were hard for me to distinguish. Now, as long as I've been smoking this cigar, it's been a little while now. I've only had to touch up a relight once, and that was actually just before I turned the camera on. I had moved my stuff out of the way so I could do a little bit of reading. And as I was shuffling things around and getting everything set back up again, the cigar went out. So, quick touch with the lighter, and we're off and running again. Provides a tremendous amount of smoke. It's nice and dense. It coats the palate well. Very full-bodied, full. I want to say full-flavored, but it's, I don't know. It's tough to explain. It's got good flavor outside of what's kind of buried, but it's not very dynamic or deep, or it's hard to describe. In general, I really enjoyed this cigar. It's not the Cain F times 2 in terms of intensity. It's more along the lines of like the Cain F plus 25 or 30%. It's definitely more powerful than the Cain F, but it's not overwhelming. This isn't something that I'd smoke, start of the day like I have done with the Fs, but I don't think it would be too much in the afternoon, maybe after lunch, and in the evening it's doing really well. I'm kind of running out of things to say. I don't want to sort of make this out to be like the best cigar ever. There are cigars that are better than this, but this one really did it for me tonight, and I'm really looking forward to smoking more. I'm not sure when you'll start to see the samplers make the rounds. From what I understand, they're only available at the tour events, so getting your hands on one is going to be a little difficult. After this cigar, I've got 2 others to smoke in the sampler. There's a concept blend. There is the Cain Daytona, and there's also a Cain F Lancero. It's my one and only left, but I've already did the review on one of those. So I'm not quite sure where I'm going to bounce around to, what I'll be doing next. There's also a Nub Habano Perfecto, which we're supposed to get later because it wasn't ready yet. So that's something that'll be coming. I don't know what to expect from Studio Tobacco as far as the advisory board goes, whether we're going to be getting more concept blends or what the case may be. But all in all, I really enjoyed the cigar. It is not for the faint of heart, but it's definitely worth trying if you like the Cain F line. So that's going to do it. So until next time, happy smoking. Well, I'm back and plugging along on my Cain Double F, and I gotta tell you, I should probably put my microphone on. Maybe you'll be able to hear me.